So Thomas from Polymath, thank you for being at Blockchain Expo today and thank you for being here. Tell me first of all just a little bit about yourself, a bit about Polymath and your role within the company.
Sure, thank you for having us. So I'm Thomas Borrel, I'm the Chief Product Officer at Polymath. Polymath is a security token issuance platform. What we have developed is a set of smart contract and a software stack to create your security token as well as manage the ongoing life cycle and operations of your security token.
So what's your career been to date and how have you ended up working with Polymath?
So interestingly enough, I went and joined blockchain from the technology side. So at the time I was working for a networking company and I owned the software and the SaaS portfolio. And so we're trying to solve a licensing issue that needed us to prevent double spend in a distributed environment. And so looking at this, you know, it was quickly that we realized that that problem had already been solved with blockchain, and started to dig into it some more. And you know, one day I woke up and thought, do I want to continue to do SaaS, or do I want to really get into blockchain and really you know, participate, jump on the train and be part of that transformation? And you know the decision that I've made, right?
So Polymath looks at essentially the more traditional elements of finance, the bonds, the stocks, the venture capital, the private equity, how they can move onto the blockchain. Tell me a bit about how that has happened or maybe hasn't happened so far.
Sure, so yes, so we are focused on securities, which means we are focused on the regulated side of tokens. Security tokens that can be used to represent equity, bonds, debt, and so on. And we're also seeing new and innovative products, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later. So in terms of how much of that has happened, how much of that is happening, how much of that is not happening, we're seeing a lot of demand. We've had 116 security tokens created on our platform today, so there is certainly a lot of demand. Various degrees of success across all the different products that have been tokenized. But I would say there's a couple of critical pieces. One, the infrastructure is being built. Because security tokens operate within a very regulated environment, you're going to need registered broker-dealers, you need exchanges with licenses, you need qualified custodians. All that infrastructure is currently in the process of being built across a variety of jurisdictions. You also need clarity from the regulators, which is also happening. You've had a broad range from consultation paper being published with the FCA or the Ontario OSC, all the way to new regulations being published like Luxembourg or France. General statements from a variety of jurisdictions. So I would say that the infrastructure is still in the process of building itself. The regulation is in the process of being clarified. In certain jurisdictions, it is clear. You know what you can do. So security tokens can be used today to solve a problem that is there today, provided that the issuance and the investor side are in the right jurisdictions for this to happen.
So essentially what you're saying here is that a lot of stakeholders have had to come together to build this ecosystem out, and it's gradually getting there.
Yeah, I'd say that's a fair way to put it, and you know that's where we have, as a company, spent a lot of effort through standardization, for example. So we had a team work on ERC 1400, which was there to do a security token standard. And the goal there was to eliminate friction or reduce the friction on secondary market and custody by having a security token that is structured in such a way that if everyone complies with the standard, then you know it can be custodied, you know it can trade. There's still the business due diligence that need to be done on the asset. That doesn't change. But in terms of technology due diligence, tech due diligence, this is handled by the standard. And we've been overwhelmed by the positive feedback that ERC 1400 has received. And you know, a question I get a lot is, how do you know it's going to be the standard that wins? I don't think we should look at it as one standard is going to win and it's going to be a one single standard world. It usually is not. But if we've managed to go from thousands of bespoke smart contracts to 5, 6, 10 standards, we've already tremendously reduced the friction and empowered the rest of the ecosystem to align behind a standard and focus on innovation as opposed to focusing on embracing different bespoke solutions.
We've sort of touched on this, in fact, with the security tokens and the fact that many people are saying that 2019 will be the year of the STO. I'm sure Polymath are saying that themselves. But maybe just a little bit on that, as well as, I guess, the maturation of the market. We said that, 2017 was the year of the ICO, it's become a bit more volatile, and this is more of a maturation of the space.
Well, as soon as you get into a regulated market, there has to be a certain level of maturity that's already there. When we look at 2019, is it the year of the STOs? Perhaps. I would say it's more the year of the security tokens than it is the year of the security token offerings. And the reason why we're separating the two is we're actually seeing some very innovative products being created using security tokens, such as companies that have done their fundraise, they've completed their fundraise, they're tokenizing themselves for the purposes of delivering dividends much easier, much faster, doing an accelerated vesting schedule, effectively using the true benefits of the automation that the blockchain brings to bear, the transparency that the blockchain brings to bear, without necessarily doing a fundraise with it. And so we really need to look at the growth in security tokens and the growth in STOs as two joint but independent things, if that makes any sense, right? You cannot have an STO without the security token, but you can have a security token without an STO. And there's a lot of things that we see companies do that are very innovative in that particular area.
Again, I guess it's almost a question of maturation in itself, because the ICOs, everyone went for it in 2017. They saw it as a way, for fundraising capital, etc. Whereas now you mentioned the divide, or sort of the difference, obviously, between the security token and the STO. The companies that are moving towards an STO, are they almost not going to make the same mistakes of 2 years ago? Are they a bit further down the line? Is that going to lead to a better ecosystem generally?
It will. It will. But we also have to look at what the regulation has to say. So for instance, in the world of the ICO, the retail investors were going and buying tokens. In the regulated space of security tokens, in the regulated world of security tokens, there are specific jurisdictions where the only investors that are approved to go and buy security tokens are accredited investors. And so it's effectively the regulators telling all of us as an industry, here is an environment where you're going to be able to prove the model with a class of investors that are supposed to know what they do, or have demonstrated that they know what they're doing, and can absorb a higher level of risk than the traditional investors. So here is the environment for you to prove yourself. And so that creates sort of a very different category of investors that issuers can go after, and those are the accredited. So, part of the maturation of the security tokens will be to go from accredited into the retail investors. So it's almost the opposite, if you will, right, of what happened back in 2017, where it started with retail. Now it's starting more with institutions, accredited investors, with the overall goal of the industry to be able to tokenize anything, anywhere, and have those tokens trade across multiple jurisdictions with instant clearing and settlement.
You were speaking at Blockchain Expo earlier today. Just give us an overview of what you were speaking about and what message you were looking to give to the audience.
Sure. So it was a presentation that we had earlier, and so the key message of the presentation was that we are looking at instant clearing and settlement of multi-jurisdictional trade as sort of the end goal of security tokens, and this is going to require a lot of regulatory changes. We're going to have to, as an industry, we're going to have to prove ourselves. Where we see a lot of projects tend to go to is take an asset and tokenize it in the hope that it's going to bring liquidity to it, which for the most part it doesn't. The projects that are the most exciting are the ones where a company is looking at the blockchain and the benefit and value that the blockchain is bringing, and building a financial product that leverages the capabilities of smart contracts, that leverages the capabilities of the blockchain to bring that transparency, that automation, that efficiency. And so I took three, I was presenting three sort of use cases, some of which are tied to issuers that have been leveraging our platform, our software to create their token, where we've seen really very interesting innovation around the use of a token to solve a problem that exists today and cannot be solved with traditional paper equity.
And so finally, maybe looking forward, if imagine the event this time next year, what will you expect the conversation to be? Where do you think the security tokens STO market is going to look by then?
So I think there's a couple of things that are happening. So one, standardization is becoming bigger and bigger, and we're seeing a lot of activity around that. Two, the build out of the infrastructure. Lots of exchanges that have applied for licenses, custodians that are looking to get their licenses. So I'm expecting to see, a year from now, an infrastructure that is far more developed than it is today. And that's really what's exciting, is we're seeing a tremendous amount of interest from organizations looking to be a part of it, embracing regulation, and effectively looking to get licensed and regulated. We have regulators that are saying there is something there, and we're going to provide guidance, we're going to provide framework, we're going to outline what the perimeter is. And so right now, the next thing that needs to happen is let's go and build all this. And we have been live since August of 2018. Our platform has been used over by over 110 companies to create their security token. That's fantastic, that's very exciting. And seeing all that activity around custody, around KYC, AML, know your customer, anti-money laundering, accreditation check, around exchanges, getting their licenses, that's fantastic because it gives something to on-ramp those security tokens onto a secondary market for those tokens to trade.